The Pacific was still the color of wet iron when Lieutenant Rowan Hayes finished her 200th push-up. Her arms did not tremble. Her breathing did not break. A single bead of sweat traced the line of her jaw, fell into the sand, and vanished like it had never existed at all. 5:30 in the morning, Naval Amphibious Base, Coronado, California. The salt hung heavy in the air, mixed with diesel from the idling trucks and the faint copper tang of her own exertion. Around her, 30 Navy SEALs moved in perfect silence, bodies rising and falling in the dark like a single living machine. Up, down, warriors who had bled for the trident on their chests, and one woman who had bled for hers exactly the same way. Rowan Hayes stood 5 feet 3 inches in combat boots, 125 pounds, soaking wet. The smallest operator on SEAL Team 5 by 70 pounds on her lightest day. At 26 years old, she had been a Navy SEAL for 2 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Some mornings, the weight of that trident still felt surreal against her sternum. Most mornings, she made absolutely certain that no one alive had any reason to question whether she had earned the right to wear it. "On your feet!" Master Chief Holden Brennan's voice cut through the dawn like a blade pulled slow from leather. "Recovery stretch! Move!" Rowan rose in one smooth motion. No tremor, no wasted breath. She had learned a long time ago that weakness, even the honest kind, was a language that invited interpretation. An interpretation on a team like this could get a good man killed. The team stretched in silence, focused, professional. These men were her brothers now. These men had watched her crawl through Hell Week on hands scraped raw to the bone. These men had seen her fall and stand and fall and stand until standing became the only thing her body remembered how to do. Every inch of respect she carried on her shoulders had been earned in blood and cold salt water, and hours of pain so private she could not have named them if she tried. Then the buses came through the gate. The engines of 3 olive-drab transport vehicles rumbled down the access road, headlights cutting yellow wedges through the morning haze. United States Marine Corps insignia gleamed faintly on the doors. Rowan felt the atmosphere on the beach shift the way a weather vane shifts before a storm. SEALs and Marines shared a complicated history, a love story written in fists and half grins. Mutual respect riding shotgun with open rivalry, each branch quietly certain of its own superiority and just as quietly willing to prove it. The buses hissed to a stop, the doors folded open, and 6 men stepped out. Force Recon. You could see it in the way they moved, in the tilt of their shoulders, in that particular swagger that came from jumping out of functioning aircraft and calling the fall a morning commute. 6 of them, big, young, all male, all carrying themselves with the easy confidence of men who had never once walked into a room and felt small. Rowan recognized the type instantly. She had grown up around men like this. Her father had been one. The lead Marine stepped forward, 6 feet 2 inches, maybe 195 pounds, built like a man who had been carrying a rifle since he was old enough to carry anything at all. Shoulders that stretched his utility blouse. A jaw carved out of some quarry God himself had stopped maintaining. Staff Sergeant stripes on his sleeve. The name tape over his right breast pocket read in plain block letters, Colton. Master Chief Brennan approached him, hand extended. "Master Chief Holden Brennan, welcome to Coronado." The Marine took his hand. His grip was firm. His eyes were cold. "Staff Sergeant Gage Colton, Force Recon." His voice carried the way voices carry on a parade ground, designed to reach farther than the person you were actually speaking to. "My team's here for the joint training cycle. 2 weeks cross-branch integration." "Outstanding," Brennan gestured toward the formation. "My team's ready to work. We'll be running combined ops, sharing tactics, building cohesion." And then Staff Sergeant Gage Colton's gaze slid sideways along the line of SEALs and came to rest on Rowan Hayes. It lingered there. He tilted his head just slightly, the way a man tilts his head at something he doesn't quite believe he is seeing. His eyes dropped to her name tape. Hayes. Something flickered across his face. Not the contempt she had been bracing for. Something worse. Something that looked for half a second like recognition. Then it curdled. His jaw tightened. A muscle jumped under his cheek. And when he spoke again, his voice was louder than it needed to be. "All of your team, Master Chief." The question hung in the morning air. 30 SEALs felt their eyes slide one by one toward Rowan. She did not move. She did not react. She held her position of attention, gaze fixed on the middle distance, spine straight, hands at her sides, and she became what her father had taught her to become when men like this tried to get under her skin. You become stone, baby girl. You become water. You become air. Anything but what they expect. She was 12 years old the first time he told her that, sitting on the tailgate of his pickup truck, watching the sun go down over the Pacific. She had never forgotten a single word. Colton turned to his Marines and raised his voice another notch. Looks like Naval Special Warfare updated their standards, boys. A theatrical pause. Wonder if they updated their coffee-making requirements, too. Laughter from the Marines, uncertain silence from the SEALs. Colton started walking, boots crunching on the gravel. He stopped 3 feet from Rowan, close enough to invade her space, far enough to keep it deniable. What's your rate, sailor? Not lieutenant. Not ma'am. The deliberate, measured disrespect of a man ignoring her rank on purpose and daring her to correct him. Rowan met his eyes. Level, calm. Lieutenant Rowan Hayes, SEAL Team 5. SEAL. He dragged the word out, turned it into something it was not. And how long you been playing SEAL Lieutenant? 2 years, Staff Sergeant. 2 whole years. He whistled low, shook his head. Boys, we got ourselves a seasoned veteran here. Then he leaned closer, close enough that only Rowan and the nearest SEALs could hear him. And the contempt in his voice cracked just for an instant into something rawer, something personal. Hayes. He said it like a question he already knew the answer to. Any relation to Harlan Hayes? Rowan did not move, did not flinch, but inside her stomach dropped 6 inches. She had not heard her father's name in a mouth outside her own family in a long, long time. My father's staff sergeant. Something passed across Colton's face, too fast to name. But Brennan, watching from 10 feet away, saw it. A flash of pain, of hatred, of something buried so deep it had fossilized into muscle. Then it was gone and the smirk came back, and Gage Colton straightened up and stepped away like a man stepping back from a live wire. He addressed the formation at parade ground volume. Now, I'm sure the Navy gave you the exact same standards as the men, Lieutenant. Exact same. No political pressure, no diversity quotas, no senators making phone calls. He leaned in one more time. His breath smelled of coffee and mint. Try not to cry, Princess. It's only 2 weeks. The words hit like a physical blow. Rowan's hands curled into fists at her sides. Every muscle she owned screamed to move, to respond, to wipe that smirk off his face with the heel of her hand and keep wiping until there was nothing left to wipe. But she was stone. She was water. She was air. Yes, Staff Sergeant. Flat, measured, giving him nothing. Colton held her gaze for 3 more seconds. Then he turned, dismissing her entirely, and addressed Master Chief Brennan. My Marines are ready to train, Master Chief, assuming we're actually here to train, not babysit. Brennan's weathered face had gone carefully, terribly blank. The kind of blank that came from 32 years of knowing which battles were worth fighting out loud. We're here to train, Staff Sergeant. Let's get your team squared away. The formation broke. Rowan held her position of attention until the last Marine had passed. Then she turned, walked past the SEAL barracks without looking at anyone, and kept walking until the sand gave way under her boots and the surf came up to meet her. She stood there for a long time staring at the horizon, and she did not cry. She did not cry because her father had told her on a warm summer night when she was 12 years old that warriors did not cry on the clock. Warriors cried after the mission. What Rowan Hayes did not know, standing on that gray strip of Coronado Beach, was that Gage Colton's words had just set something in motion. Something that would test every single thing she had ever built. Something that would, in exactly 14 days, put her entire career on a hardwood floor in front of 400 witnesses and ask her to bleed for the right to keep it. The next 12 days unfolded like a slow-burn masterclass in psychological warfare. Colton and his 6 Marines integrated into every training evolution. Every briefing, every meal in the chow hall. And at every single opportunity, the comments came dressed up as jokes delivered with just enough plausible deniability to make the SEAL officers look stupid for calling them out. Rowan was firing rifle qualifications on day 3. 40 rounds, 300 yards, iron sights, crosswind gusting at 15 knots from the northwest. She called her shots the way her father had taught her before she could write in cursive, controlled her breathing, squeezed the trigger between heartbeats. 40 rounds, 40 hits, dead center mass, a perfect score. Colton watched from the observation booth. His voice carried casual easy through the open window. Must be nice having adjustable targets. Bet they set hers 10 yards closer. Laughter from his Marines. Rowan ejected her magazine, cleared her weapon, said nothing. But she was keeping score. Day 5. 2-mile ocean swim in 62-degree water. Full gear, 50-pound ruck, weapons. The cold did not bother Rowan. She had grown up in these waters, had learned to love the Pacific's icy hands during Hell Week. The cold was an old friend. She finished 8 minutes ahead of the next fastest swimmer. Came out of the surf breathing hard but controlled. No shivering, No hypothermia tremors. Colton was waiting on the beach. Lucky current today. Probably had it easier being so small. Less body mass to drag. Rowan wrung salt water from her hair. Yes, Staff Sergeant. Day 7. Kill House. Live ammunition. The most dangerous training, SEALs did the kind where one moment of bad judgment sent a man home in a flag-draped box. Rowan's team breached 6 rooms, engaged 42 targets, 0 civilian casualties, 0 friendly fire incidents. 93 seconds start to finish. Textbook perfect. Colton reviewed the footage, shook his head slow. Anybody can shoot paper. Combat's different. When real bullets come back, we'll see who freezes. His corporal, a lean man named Whitaker, with a third-degree Taekwondo black belt patched onto his gym bag, nodded along. Women aren't wired for violence, Staff Sergeant. It's biology. When it gets real, instinct takes over. Rowan was cleaning her weapon 15 feet away. She heard every word, said nothing. But Corporal Ridge Whitaker had just volunteered himself for something he could not possibly have imagined. Day 10, the gymnasium. It was packed. Operators from both services, 60 men and 1 woman, lined along the walls. Crash mats covered the floor. The air was thick with sweat and the electric hum of men who could feel something coming and did not yet know what it was. The SEAL Combatives instructor, a grizzled chief petty officer named Keene, who had been teaching hand-to-hand since before Rowan was born, called for a demonstration volunteer. I need 2 people. 1 grappler, 1 striker. We're going to show integrated technique. Before Rowan could even process the request, Colton's voice cracked across the gym. I volunteer, Lieutenant Hayes. The room went quiet. Rowan turned. Colton was smiling, that same not friendly smile from day 1. Come on, Lieutenant. Show us what female SEAL standards really mean. I'm curious. Chief Keene frowned. Staff Sergeant, I don't think... No disrespect, Chief, but we're supposed to be training together, right? Cross-branch integration. Colton gestured to his squad. Corporal Whitaker here's got a 3rd-degree Taekwondo black belt. He'll go easy. Whitaker stepped forward, 5'9", 170, lean, flexible. His grin matched Colton's tooth for tooth. I'll take care of you, ma'am. Wouldn't want you getting hurt. Rowan looked at Chief Keene. The old instructor's face said everything. He knew exactly what this was. Political theater built to humiliate dressed up as training. He gave her a small, almost invisible nod. Your call. Rowan stepped onto the mat. No ceremony, no warm-up, just motion. All right, Chief Keene's voice was careful. We'll do a light demonstration, 20% speed, just showing technique. Nah, Colton again. Let's make it real. Full speed, full contact. Let's see what a SEAL can actually do. The gym had gone completely silent now. 60 operators, waiting, watching. This was not about training anymore. This was about proving the point Colton had been making for 10 solid days. Women did not belong here. Chief Keene looked at Rowan. Lieutenant, you comfortable with that? Rowan faced Whitaker, analyzed his stance without seeming to. Weight distribution, the slight forward lean of a kicker, the loose shoulders of a man confident in his striking. Every opponent tells you how to beat them, baby girl. You just have to listen. Yes, Chief, full contact is fine. Whitaker's grin widened. He bounced on the balls of his feet and already composing his spinning kick highlight reel in his head. Touch gloves. Keep it professional. They touched gloves. Rowan's hands looked tiny against Whitaker's. Ready, go! Ridge Whitaker exploded forward. Feint jab, committed hip rotation, spinning back kick. Textbook. The kind of kick that would have looked spectacular in a dojo demonstration, all snap and power and visual drama. Rowan was not there. She had read the setup the instant his weight shifted. She stepped inside the arc of the kick, let his momentum carry him past her like a bus passing a pedestrian. Whitaker completed his rotation slightly off balance, searching for a target that had moved. Rowan was behind him now. She hooked his lead leg with her foot, a simple sweep. Whitaker's eyes went wide as his balance disappeared out from under him. He went down hard, back slamming into the mat. Rowan followed him down, dropped into side control. Whitaker tried to bridge to buck her off, but Rowan had already trapped his forearm, her legs locked around his neck and shoulder in a textbook arm triangle choke. Whitaker's other hand came up, the obvious defense. Rowan used that motion, rolled them both, ended up mounted on his chest. The arm triangle deepened, her shoulder pressed into one side of his neck, his own shoulder pressed into the other. Carotid arteries compressed. Whitaker's face went red, then purple. He tapped. 3 quick slaps against the mat. Rowan released him instantly, rose to her feet, while Whitaker gasped and coughed on the canvas. 18 seconds. The gym stayed silent. You could have heard a pin drop from the observation deck. Rowan extended her hand. After a long moment, Whitaker took it. "Where did you learn that, ma'am?" "My father." Colton's voice shattered the moment. "Lucky shot." Every head in the gym turned. "Anyone can get lucky once." And that was when Master Chief Holden Brennan spoke from the doorway. Rowan had not seen him come in. His weathered face was carved out of stone. 62 years old, 32 in the teams, and his eyes were fixed on Gage Colton with a quiet intensity that could have melted a bulkhead. "You're right, Staff Sergeant." Brennan walked into the center of the gym. Every man in the room knew who he was. Mogadishu, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, a living piece of the history that had shaped what it meant to be a SEAL. "Anyone can get lucky once. How about 6 times?" The gym went silent a second time. Deeper silence, the kind that has weight. "You have 6 Marines, Staff Sergeant. Lieutenant Hayes is 1 SEAL. Seems like uneven odds to me." Colton's expression shifted, uncertain now. "Master Chief, I don't think—" "Here's what I think." Brennan turned, addressed the entire gymnasium. "We've got 4 days left of joint training. We're supposed to be building unit cohesion, but it seems to me there's some doubt on this base. About standards, about capability, about whether everybody here actually earned their place." He turned back to Colton. "So let's settle it. Exhibition match, Lieutenant Hayes versus your entire squad, one-on-one, 6 consecutive fights. Full contact, 2-minute rest between fights. No time limit per fight except exhaustion." The room erupted, voices overlapping, SEALs stunned, Marines suddenly visibly eager. Colton recovered faster than he should have, like he had been waiting for exactly this. "What are the stakes, Master Chief?" Brennan smiled, and the smile was not friendly. "Lieutenant Hayes wins you issue a formal written apology to every female service member on this base. Public, documented, entered into your permanent record." Colton's jaw tightened. "And if she loses?" "She requests a transfer off SEAL Team 5 and out of Naval Special Warfare. Permanently." Rowan's blood went cold. Her career. Everything she had fought for since she was 13 years old, standing in her father's empty bedroom the day the men in dress blues came with the folded flag. Everything. On the line. Captain Sterling Reed, the base commander, had materialized at the back of the gym drawn by the noise. He listened, crossed his arms. After a long moment, he nodded once. "Sanctioned, medical on standby, Saturday night, 2000 hours." It was done. 400 people were going to watch. That night, Rowan sat alone on the edge of her rack in her quarters. The overhead light was off. The only illumination came from the red glow of her alarm clock. She held in her lap a battered leather notebook, the cover soft with 20 years of her father's hands. On the wall above her, hanging from a simple nail, was a Krav Maga black belt, frayed, faded to gray at the edges, her father's. She opened the notebook to page 1, her father's handwriting younger, steadier than the later pages. The title block letters, Phantom Protocol. A knock at the door. "Lieutenant, it's Brennan." She let him in. The Master Chief stood in the doorway, a paper cup of coffee in each hand. He handed her one without a word, sat down on the metal folding chair by her desk, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. "You knew my father." It was not a question. Brennan looked at his coffee, then at her. "I served with Harlan Hayes for 17 years, Lieutenant. Mogadishu, every deployment after. I was the one who identified his body in Bagram." Rowan's hand tightened on the cup. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you needed to earn this on your own. And you did." He took a slow breath. "But I'm telling you now because of what Colton has said on the beach. About your name." Rowan waited. "He recognized it, Lieutenant, didn't he?" "Yes, Master Chief." "I thought so." He rubbed his jaw. "I don't know yet exactly what that is. But I know your father. And I know that man has a piece of a puzzle you do not yet have. Whatever comes Saturday night, you remember that." He stood. At the door, he turned back. "Your father started writing that notebook the year you were born, Rowan." She looked up. "Phantom Protocol wasn't built for SEALs. It never was. He built it for you. Every page, every principle. He knew 26 years ago what you were going to have to become." He paused. "You've got 6 days, Lieutenant. 6 days to learn what most men spend a lifetime trying to understand. Starting tomorrow, 4:30, I'll be outside your barracks with coffee. And it's going to be worse than anything Hell Week ever did to you." The door closed behind him. Rowan sat alone in the red glow. She opened the notebook, Turned to the page her father had marked with a single folded corner 20-something years ago before she was old enough to read. Page 1. Rule 1, well, small joints break before large muscles tear. Below it in her father's hand, a line she had never understood until this exact moment. Make them remember your name, baby girl. Rowan Hayes closed the notebook, pressed it against her chest, stared up at her father's black belt on the wall. 4:30 in the morning came too quickly. Rowan was already awake when the knock came at her door. She had not slept. She had spent the night with her father's notebook open on her lap, turning pages in the red glow of her alarm clock, reading words she had read 100 times before and finding for the first time that they meant something she had never understood. Every page was dated. The earliest entries went back to the year she was born. 2000. Harlan Hayes, 29 years old, already a hardened operator, sitting down after missions she could not imagine, and writing in careful, deliberate handwriting. Not for himself, for her. 26 years of a father's love pressed into ink on yellowing paper. The knock came again. 3 quick taps. Lieutenant, she opened the door. Master Chief Brennan stood in the passageway with 2 paper cups of coffee and the expression of a man who had been awake since 3. Gear up, Jim. 10 minutes. She was there in 7. The combatives' gym was empty at that hour. The overhead fluorescents buzzed softly. The crash mats smelled of old sweat and rubber and cold. Brennan had set up a clock on the wall, red numbers. It read 5 o'clock. Here's how this works, Lieutenant. You're going to fight 6 men in a row Saturday night. That means your body has to learn how to win when it has nothing left to give. You cannot train that in a classroom. You cannot train it in visualization. You train it by doing it. He gestured to the mat. 4 SEALs stepped out of the locker room, fresh, rested, all of them bigger than her. 5-minute rounds, 30 seconds between. You rotate through fresh opponents. They do not rotate through you until I say stop. She stepped onto the mat. The first round began with a whistle. The SEAL across from her was a chief petty officer named Walker, 210 pounds of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt. He gave her no mercy. He was not supposed to. Rowan survived on technique, on angles, on the 1,000 small tricks her father had drilled into her when she was still too small to throw a proper punch. She hand-fought for grips. She broke posture. She stayed off her back. When the whistle blew at the 5-minute mark, she was breathing hard, but she was still upright. Round 2. A senior chief, wrestling background. He clinched immediately, drove her down past her guard. She fought from underneath, shrimped, framed. Round 3. A younger SEAL, kickboxer. She closed the distance, ate a knee to the ribs, and took him down by sheer bloody-minded refusal to stay standing. Round 4. Her arms had started to feel distant, disconnected. Round 5. She vomited halfway through, stopped, wiped her mouth. The SEAL across from her looked at Brennan. Brennan's face did not change. He just pointed at the mat. Rowan stepped back into the center. Round 6, she got submitted. An ankle lock. She tapped. Rested 30 seconds. Stepped back on the mat. Round 8, she vomited again. Somewhere around the round 10, her vision began to tunnel. She thought for a brief moment of her father writing in that notebook at the kitchen table when she was 4 years old. The yellow light, the smell of coffee, his hand moving across the page. Round 12, round 15. Somewhere around round 18, Brennan finally blew the whistle and did not start another one. Rowan sat down on the mat. She did not lie down. She would not give him that. She just sat, hands on her knees, chest heaving. Brennan crouched in front of her. His voice was low enough that the other SEALs could not hear. 18 rounds, Lieutenant. 90 minutes on the clock. Over an hour of actual contact. She nodded, could not speak. He held up a water bottle. She drank. 3 swallows. He pulled it away. Listen to me. You are going to go back to your rack now. You are going to ice everything. You are going to eat like it is your job. You are going to sleep 8 hours. And tomorrow at 04:30, we do this again. He looked at her for a long moment. Your father did something like this once. Mogadishu, October 3rd, 1993. He and I were pinned in a courtyard. He had 3 broken ribs and a dislocated shoulder. There were 4 enemy combatants inside a doorway 20 feet from us. They were going to kill us both. He went in there anyway. Rowan looked up. 11 minutes, Lieutenant. He fought for 11 minutes, hand to hand, with 3 broken ribs. He came out of that doorway dragging me behind him. That night, back at the safe house, he started writing a new page in that notebook. You were 5 months old. Brennan stood up. Phantom Protocol was born in a Mogadishu courtyard. Your father believed from the first time he held you that you would one day need to do something impossible. He wrote the book for that day. Saturday is that day, Lieutenant. Rowan looked at her hands. They were shaking. She could not stop them. Get up. We have work to do. She got up. Day one was not over. They worked for another 3 hours on mobility, on recovery, on the slow, deliberate mechanics of teaching an exhausted body to function. By the time the sun was fully up over the Pacific, Rowan Hayes had learned something about her herself that 26 years of living had not yet taught her. She had no bottom. There was no floor down there, no point where she would stop. Her body would give out long before her will did, and her father had somehow known that back when she was an infant in a bassinet. Day one ended at sunset. She slept 10 hours. Day two began at 4:30 the next morning. Brennan opened the notebook to page 15. Small joints break before large muscles tear. Target fingers, wrists, elbows, knees. Quick, devastating. Move on, no wasted motion. Your father was an engineer before he was a SEAL lieutenant. University of Virginia, mechanical engineering. He understood that the human body is just a machine, and machines break when you exceed their tolerances. They drilled for 14 hours. Brennan's hands became targets. Rowan learned to see every finger, every wrist, every elbow as a lever, a fulcrum, a mechanical system with a design failure point. Pain is a signal, Brennan said. When you attack a small joint, you're sending a signal to the brain that it cannot ignore. Their defense, their strategy, their strength. They become prisoners of the pain. Rowan's hands moved thousands of times, isolating, hyperextending, finding the precise angles where a joint stopped being a joint and became a failure. By the end of day two, she could feel the mechanics in every joint she touched. She went back to her quarters and did not sleep. She sat up in the dark and read pages 40 through 60 of her father's notebook. She learned in his handwriting that he had hidden a Glock in the master bathroom of their family home in San Diego when she was 9 years old, that he had taught her mother to use it, that he had taught Rowan herself to clear a room at 12. She had always known her father was careful. She had not known until page 60 that he had been careful, because he had always believed the world would come for his daughter someday. Day three began with observation. Second rule, Brennan pointed at page 22 of the notebook. Every warrior has a tell. Find it in 10 seconds. Exploit it in one move. For 6 hours, Rowan watched Colton's Marines during their morning training. Sergeant Declan Walsh, 6'4", 240 pounds. They called him Titan. When he got tired, his left hand dropped, a habit carved in from years of heavy weapons training. Rowan wrote it down. Lance Corporal Knox Brooks, they called him Hound. Street fighter, no formal training. Every punch started with a big looping windup. Telegraphed 3 moves out. Rowan wrote it down. Corporal Beckett Nash, Division I wrestler. Strong, good pressure. But his takedowns all started the same way. Same level change, same penetration step. Rowan wrote it down. Corporal Finn Parker. Sniper, lean, flexible, Muay Thai trained. He was the best pure striker in the squad. But when he transitioned between combinations for just a heartbeat, his chin came up. Rowan wrote it down. Whitaker. She had already fought him. He would be angry, out for revenge. That made him predictable too. And then there was Colton. She watched him on the heavy bag for a long time. 12 years of Golden Gloves boxing lived in his hands. His footwork was immaculate. His jab was a weapon. His right cross had knocked men unconscious in amateur tournaments from San Diego to Paris Island. But there was something. The right shoulder. When he fully extended his right hand just for a fraction of a second, his face tightened. Not pain, exactly. An accommodation. The way a man moves around an old injury he has stopped acknowledging but has never healed. He favored it subtly. He had trained himself not to show it. But it was there. Rowan wrote it down. That afternoon, she was eating alone in the chow hall when she saw something that made her stop with her fork halfway to her mouth. Gage Colton was sitting at a corner table by himself. His food was untouched. He was looking at his phone. Not reading. Watching. She could see the screen reflected faintly in the window beside him. A video. A young woman in a dress uniform. Marine recruit. Her hair pulled back. She was laughing about something. The video was old. Low resolution. Something transferred across 4 devices over many years. Colton's face watching it was not the face he wore in front of his Marines. His face watching it was the face of a man standing at a grave. Rowan did not know who the young woman was. She would not know for another 2 days. Day 4 was speed. Brennan brought in a metronome. Your father used to say fast beats strong, smart beats fast. But fast and smart together is unstoppable. They drilled transitions for 8 hours. Guard passes, sweeps, submissions. Everything had to flow. No pause. By the end of the day, Rowan's body had begun to do the work before her mind caught up. When an opponent moved left, her body had already moved right. When he pushed, she had already pulled. Phantom, Brennan said. This is where the name comes from. You are not fast, Lieutenant. You are gone before they arrive. That is a different thing. That night, she read pages 70 through 80. Her father's handwriting had started to change on these pages, slightly shakier. The dates were from 2010, the year before he died. He had known something she realized, the way old operators know. On page 78, he had written, Rowan, if you are reading this notebook cover to cover, something has happened. Either I am gone or you are about to do something I cannot prepare you for. Probably both. I want you to know I am not sorry. Not for teaching you to fight before you could read. Not for the hours on the mat. You were born with a fire in you. I saw it the day you came home from the hospital. I did not make you a warrior. You were always a warrior. I just tried to give you the tools. Make them remember your name, baby girl. Rowan closed the notebook, pressed it against her chest, sat in the dark for a long time. Day 5 was mental. Brennan made her sit in a folding chair in the empty gym. Close her eyes. Visualize the fights, one at a time. Start to finish. See yourself winning. Feel yourself winning. Your mind cannot distinguish between vivid visualization and real experience. By Saturday, your mind will have won 6 fights before you ever step onto the floor. She visualized Whittaker's overconfident spinning kick, Brooks's telegraphed haymaker, Nash's predictable takedown, Parker's exposed neck, Walsh's drifting left hand, Colton's weak shoulder. She saw herself win 6 times, 6 different ways. She saw it so vividly that when she opened her eyes, the gym was darker than she remembered it being, and the clock on the wall said 3 hours had passed. When you are exhausted, Brennan said, when you are hurt, when you want to quit, your mind is going to remember that you have already been here. That memory is a weapon, Lieutenant. Use it. That night, when she returned to her quarters, there was a sealed envelope on her pillow. Plain manila. Her name on the front in her father's handwriting. She had never seen this envelope before. She sat down slowly on the edge of her rack. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. Inside was a single folded letter. 4 pages. Dated March 14th, 2011. 3 weeks before he deployed to Afghanistan for the last time. Rowan, I am writing this one separate from the notebook because this one is not about fighting. This one is about a story I have never told you. I hope I will tell it to you in person someday. If you are reading this, I did not. In 2009, I was invited to instruct a 3-month course at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot at Parris Island, Advanced Combatives. I took the assignment because your mother wanted us closer to her family for a little while. You were 9 years old. One of my students was a young woman named Rachel Colton, 19 years old, small, 5'2", built like a sparrow, heart like a lion. She was the best natural grappler I had seen come through recruit training in 10 years. She was also being bullied, Rowan. Not by one man, by a culture. Her platoon had decided she did not belong. Her drill instructors looked the other way. I saw it with my own eyes in the mess hall. I heard it in the way the men spoke to her when they thought no one was listening. I wrote a report. I wrote it up the chain 3 times. I sat across desks from full colonels, and I told them what I had seen. Every single one of them thanked me for my concern and did absolutely nothing. Rachel finished the course. She graduated. She went home to Abilene, Texas for 2 weeks of leave before her first duty assignment. She did not come back. She took her own life in her brother's apartment on the night of August the 7th, 2010. She was 19 years old. Her brother was a young corporal in Force Recon. He found her. The report said he tried to revive her for 40 minutes before the paramedics arrived. He never spoke publicly about what happened, but I know because I made it my business to know that he has never forgiven the Marine Corps. He has never forgiven himself. And somewhere buried inside the part of him that used to love his sister, he has decided that no woman will ever succeed in a uniform if he has any say in it. Because if one does, then Rachel could have. And if Rachel could have, then he was the one who failed her, not the Corps. His name is Gage Colton. I never met him. He does not know my name. But I have watched his career from a distance for 6 years now. He is by every account one of the finest Marines of his generation. He is also a man carrying a dead sister on his back every single day of his life. Rowan, I am writing this because I believe the way a father believes things, he cannot explain that you are going to cross paths with this man someday. When you do, I need you to understand what he is. He is not evil. He is broken. He is a warrior, grieving a warrior, the only way his grief knows how, which is to stop every woman who looks like his sister from becoming what she was trying to become. You are going to have to beat him, baby girl. Not hurt him, not humiliate him, beat him. And then you are going to have to give him this letter. Tell him I am sorry I could not save her. Tell him I tried. Tell him that the only way to honor Rachel now is to let the next one through the door. If he is capable of hearing it, those words will give him his life back. If he is not, at least you will have said them. I love you, Rowan. Dad. Rowan Hayes sat on the edge of her rack with her father's letter in her hands, and she did not move for a very long time. The digital clock ticked forward in red silence. When she finally stood up, the sun was coming up over Coronado, and the birds were starting outside her window. She had not slept. She had not cried. She folded the letter back into the envelope, set the envelope inside her father's notebook, closed the notebook, placed it on the small desk by the window. And then she got dressed, and she walked out of her quarters, and she went to find Master Chief Brennan because it was day 6 and there was work to do. Day 6, recovery. Brennan made her swim easy distance in the bay, 20 laps. Nothing strenuous, ice baths for 20 minutes, massage therapy, nutrition. He did not push her. He saw in her face that something had changed overnight, and he did not ask what. He trusted her father's timing even beyond the grave. Tomorrow's the fight, Lieutenant. Your body needs to be fresh. She nodded. Day 7 came quiet and gray. No training, no drilling. Brennan told her to rest, to eat, to sleep if she could. He did not ask her to do anything else. She spent the morning in the chapel. She did not pray. She was not a praying woman. But she sat in the back pew for 2 hours, and she thought about her father, and she thought about Rachel Colton, and she thought about the 26 years of ink in a leather notebook. In the afternoon, she walked the beach alone. The tide was low. The gulls wheeled overhead. She watched the Pacific roll in and out, patient, endless, the way it had rolled when she was 12, and her father had taught her the words that had kept her alive ever since. Stone, water, air. She came back to her quarters at 1700, showered, dressed in clean PT gear. And that was when Master Chief Brennan came to her door one last time. He carried a small bag. Your father wanted you to have this. Made me promise years ago. Said to give it to you when you faced your biggest challenge. He unfolded the bag and took out a belt. Black. Frayed. The edges had gone gray with use. Krav Maga. The same belt she had seen hanging on the wall of her quarters since the day she moved in. He earned this in 1990. Wore it for 15 years. Every training session. Every deployment. Said it carried his spirit. His technique. Everything he had ever learned. Brennan held it out. Time to pass it on, Lieutenant. Rowan took the belt with trembling fingers. The material was soft, worn. She could feel through the cotton the outline of every hour her father had spent in it. Thank you, Master Chief. Don't thank me. You still have to fight. He turned to leave. At the door, he paused. Your father used to say one more thing before missions, Lieutenant. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. You are about to lose a lot of weakness tomorrow night. The door closed behind him. Rowan stood alone in her quarters. She looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall above her desk. 26 years old, 5'3", 125 pounds, hair pulled back, eyes steady. She looked like her father. She had always looked like her father. People used to say so when she was small, and she had taken it as the highest compliment a child could receive. Now, for the first time, she let herself look in the mirror and see him. The same jaw, the same gray-blue eyes, the same quiet, measured stillness. She picked up the black belt, ran it through her fingers, tied it around her waist over her PT shorts just to feel it. It fit. Of course it fit. He had left it for her. She turned off the light, lay down on her rack in the dark, closed her eyes. Somewhere out there on the other side of Coronado Gauge, Colton was doing the same thing. Lying in the dark, staring at a ceiling he could not see, carrying his sister on his back like a ruck he had never once set down. Rowan thought about Rachel Colton, 19 years old, 5'2", built like a sparrow, heart like a lion. She thought about what it must have been like to come so close and to have every door shut in her face by men who should have been opening them. She thought about Gage Colton finding his sister on an August night in 2010 and trying to revive her for 40 minutes. Rowan Hayes lay in the dark, and she understood for the first time what tomorrow night was actually about. It was not about proving she was a SEAL. It was not about silencing Colton. Tomorrow night was about a promise her father had made to a dead girl from Abilene, Texas in August of 2010. A promise Harlan Hayes had not been able to keep in life. A promise he had handed to his daughter through a letter on a pillow 15 years after the fact. Rowan Hayes smiled in the dark. She was fighting for Rachel. She was fighting for every Rachel who had ever come and gone and been forgotten. Outside her window, the Pacific turned over in the dark, patient, endless, and the first gray edge of Saturday began to show along the eastern horizon. Saturday came the way every fighter's Saturday comes. Slow in the morning, fast in the afternoon, and then at 1900 hours with the cruel suddenness of a door slamming shut behind you. Rowan Hayes sat alone in her quarters at 1800. She wore simple black training shorts and a gray navy t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a tight single braid. Around her waist sat the Krav Maga belt her father had earned in 1990. She had tied it the way he had taught her to tie it when she was 6 years old, standing in the backyard of their house in San Diego with a cartoon training belt he had bought her from a sporting goods store. The knots matched, 15 years apart. The same hands. On the desk in front of her was the notebook, next to it the letter. She had read the letter 3 more times in the last 24 hours. She had memorized every word. Not because she needed to, because she wanted her father's voice close tonight. A knock at the door, 3 soft taps. Master Chief Brennan stepped inside. He was in his dress blues. 62 years old, 32 in the team's every ribbon he had ever earned across his chest. He had come as an honor guard. "It's time, Lieutenant." Rowan stood. She slid the letter into the waistband of her shorts against the small of her back under the belt. She did not know yet exactly when she would give it to Gage Colton. She only knew that she was going to. At the door, Brennan paused. "Your father is here tonight, Rowan. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Master Chief." "Then let's go make him proud." They walked through the base in silence. The sun had dropped behind the Pacific 20 minutes earlier. The sky was the deep bruised blue of late dusk. The gymnasium at the far end of the compound was lit up like a stadium. 400 chairs, every one of them filled. The gym had been transformed. A regulation boxing ring sat in the dead center of the floor. Ropes, canvas, proper lighting, a scorer's table, a raised judge's platform. Captain Sterling Reed had sanctioned every inch of this. It was official. It was on the record. It was going to be witnessed. The noise when she entered was a physical thing. 400 voices dropping off one at a time like a wave receding. She walked to her corner. Did not look at the crowd, did not look across the ring. Master Chief Brennan climbed into the ring with her and taped her hands himself, small bones forward, thumb anchored, wraps tight but not constricting, the way her father had taught him to wrap hands 30 years ago. "Nice and easy, Lieutenant," she nodded. Across the ring, Gage Colton was pacing in his own corner. He was stripped down to black fight shorts and a sleeveless gray compression shirt. His 5 remaining Marines stood along the ropes behind him. They were not laughing tonight, not smirking. They had seen what she did to Whitaker 3 days ago. Captain Reed stepped into the ring with a microphone. The room fell silent. "What we are about to witness is a sanctioned exhibition match conducted under standard mixed martial arts rules. No strikes to the groin, no strikes to the throat, no eye gouging. A match ends by submission, knockout technical, knockout, or referee stoppage." He paused. "Lieutenant Rowan Hayes of SEAL Team 5 will face 6 opponents consecutively. 2-minute rest between matches. Fight order has been determined by rank. Lowest first." He looked across the ring. "Lieutenant, do you accept these terms?" "Yes, sir." "Staff Sergeant Colton, do your Marines accept these terms?" Colton's voice was flat. "Yes, sir." "Then let's begin. First match. Lieutenant Rowan Hayes versus Corporal Ridge Whitaker." The crowd roared. Whitaker climbed through the ropes. He was not the man she had beaten 3 days ago. That man had been a showman. A black belt in love with his own highlight reel. This man was quieter. His eyes were hard. The referee waved them to center ring. Touch of gloves. Step back. Fight. Whitaker did not spin this time. He came in low and straight, a simple jab, a simple cross. No kicks, no theatrics. He had decided that theatrics were what had cost him before. He was right. It was also too late. Rowan slipped the jab, parried the cross, stepped inside his guard, wrapped his lead arm, and dropped her weight. He tried to base out. She took his back before his knees hit the canvas. Body triangle. Locked in. Whitaker fought the choke better than he had fought it 3 days ago. He tucked his chin, kept his hands up. He knew what was coming. But Rowan was patient. She rode his back for 20 seconds, feeling his breathing pick up. When he reached up to grip her wrist, he gave her the angle. Her forearm slid under his jaw. He tapped it 15 seconds. The crowd exploded. Rowan rolled off. Whitaker stayed on his knees for a moment. Then he stood up. She offered her hand. He took it this time without hesitation. You saw it coming, he said quietly. I saw it coming. He climbed out of the ring, walked past his squad without looking at them. One down, Brennan poured water into Rowan's mouth. How's the breathing? Fine. 5 more. The referee raised his hand. Next match, Lieutenant Hayes versus Lance Corporal Knox Brooks. Knox Brooks was 6'1", 200 pounds. He would not stop coming. Once he had your scent, he was on you, and the only way to shake him was to put him down. He walked into the ring with murder in his eyes. Nothing personal, ma'am. I understand, Corporal. Fight. Brooks charged, a wild right hook, a haymaker broadcast from 3 moves away. Rowan had watched him do the same thing a dozen times during training. She stepped inside the arc, slipped the shoulder, hooked his lead leg with her own, judo hip throw, pure physics. 200 pounds of Marine rotating through the air, powered by his own forward momentum and landing flat on his back from 3.5 feet up. The impact punched the air out of him. He tried to get up, sat up onto his elbows. A mistake. Rowan took his back. Rear naked choke. One arm under the chin, the other hand gripping her own bicep, elbows clamped tight. Brooks was strong. His hands came up and grabbed her forearm. He would not tap. He managed impossibly to stand up with her on his back. The crowd gasped. He stumbled forward 2 steps toward the corner post, trying to crush her, trying anything. Rowan tightened her legs around his waist and let his own momentum finish him. His knees buckled. They went down together. His arms went slack. The referee dove in. Stop. He's out. Rowan released, rolled away. The medical team was already in the ring. Brooks came back 30 seconds later. His squad mates helped him down from the ring. 2 down. Brennan's hand on her shoulder. Breathing's faster. I know. 4 more. Next match, Lieutenant Hayes versus Corporal Beckett Nash. Nash was the wrestler. Division I, 6 feet even, 185 pounds. Thick through the shoulders and thicker through the legs. He circled, patient, probing for an opening. 45 seconds of nothing. Then Nash shot, a beautiful double leg, low, explosive. She had seen him do the exact same setup 4 times in training. She sprawled, drove her hip pressure down into his shoulders, made herself dead weight. His takedown died under her. He tried to drive through. She circled to his side. She took his back on the mat. Nash was technical, better than Brooks, better than Whitaker. He hand-fought every attempt at the choke, kept his chin down. Rowan did not force it. She controlled his posture instead, one hand on his forehead pulling back, the other hand delivering short legal punches from back mount. Not hard, not damaging, just making him choose. He chose the punches. His hands came up to cover his head. His neck opened. Her forearm slid in. The choke locked. He tapped at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. 3 down. Rowan walked to her corner, sat on the stool. Brennan gave her water. How you doing, Lieutenant? Tired. Good. Stay technical. 3 more. Next match, Lieutenant Hayes versus Corporal Finn Parker. Parker was the dangerous one, the best pure striker in Colton's squad, 5'11", 180. Muay Thai trained from a legitimate camp in Phoenix before he enlisted. He entered the ring without a word, touched gloves politely. Respect, ma'am, but I'm not going down like they did. I understand, Corporal. Fight. Parker did not charge. He moved. A traditional Muay Thai stance. He threw a low kick to test the range. She checked it with her shin. Another low kick. She checked it again. 40 seconds of careful exchange. Both fighters measuring distance. He threw an elbow. She slipped it. Barely. She countered with a jab. He blocked. A minute in. Both of them still dangerous. He threw a combination. Jab, cross, low kick. She blocked the first 2 and checked the third. Then he threw the knee. A flying knee committed aimed at her midsection. And in that instant, Finn Parker made the only mistake he made all night. He committed to a technique that left him balanced on one leg. Rowan caught the knee, both hands on his shin. His eyes went wide. She twisted, off-balanced him. Parker tried to recover, tried to pull free. She jumped. The flying triangle, a technique she had drilled 10,000 times with her father. Her legs wrapped around his neck and his extended arm, while her body was still in the air. They crashed to the canvas together. He fought it. He was good. He fought posture. He tried to stand to slam her to create space. She grabbed her own shin and pulled down and the triangle tightened. He tapped at 1 minute and 44 seconds, 4 down. He rolled away gasping, stayed on the canvas for a moment, one hand on his throat, Then he sat up, extended his fist. Textbook, ma'am, respect. She bumped his fist. Best fighter I've faced tonight, Corporal Coral. Not good enough. But he smiled. The crowd was roaring now. Not SEAL versus Marine anymore. Something older. Witness, two left, the biggest and the best. Rowan sat on her stool. Her arms were trembling. Not from fear, from exhaustion. Brennan wiped her forehead with a cold towel. Walsh is fresh. Colton is fresher. You cannot fight Walsh like the others. He is too big. You will break your hands on him. You wait. You make him carry his own weight for 60 seconds. When his left hand drops, you finish him. One chance. I hear you, Master Chief. One chance. Next match, Lieutenant Hayes versus Sergeant Declan Walsh. Sergeant Declan Walsh climbed through the ropes. 6'4", 240 pounds. The ring shook under his weight. Rowan walked to center ring. He looked down at her, apologetic, professional. Ma'am, I don't want to hurt you. Then don't, Sergeant. Just fight. They touched gloves. His hands were the size of her face. Fight. Walsh stalked forward slowly. His reach was massive. His job was to keep her at the end of his jab, pick her apart from distance. She circled. He threw a jab, long, snapping. She pulled back. The fist passed an inch from her face. 30 seconds passed. He had barely moved, just worked his jab, using his size exactly the way a man his size should use it. She pressed forward, made him jab more, made him keep those enormous arms up. 40 seconds in, his breathing was starting to pick up. 50 seconds. He was breathing through his mouth now. Minute 15, minute 30. She watched his left hand. Minute 45. He threw a big right cross, fully committed. He wanted to end this. She ducked under. The punch went over her head, and there it was, just for a heartbeat. His left hand dropped 6 inches. The old habit, fatigue pulling it down. Rowan did not think. She stepped inside his guard, got past his reach, and she jumped. The flying armbar. One of the most dangerous techniques in submission grappling. If she mistimed it by a fraction of a second, 240 pounds of Marine would crush her against the canvas. Her body went horizontal in midair. Her legs wrapped around his extended right arm. Her hips pressed down on his elbow joint, all her weight pulling backward. Walsh's eyes went wide. He tried to pull back. His arm was trapped. Her weight was committed. They crashed to the canvas, her momentum dragging him forward. He fell to his knees, his arm hyperextended against her hips. The pop was audible. The gym heard it. Walsh screamed. He tapped frantically with his free hand. Rowan released instantly, rose to her feet. Walsh clutched his elbow, medical team already running into the ring. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. 5 down. The crowd was deafening. Rowan walked back to her corner on legs that felt like concrete poured into boots. Brennan grabbed her shoulders, forced her onto the stool. One more, just one more. I know. He has rested Rowan. He has been studying you for 20 minutes. He is going to box you. He is going to try to hurt you. Listen to me. You cannot outbox him. Do not try. The moment you can, you put him on his back. You take the fight to the ground. That is your fight, not his. I know, Master Chief. Your father is here tonight. I know. Across the ring, Gage Colton was rolling his shoulders, loosening up. His face was unreadable. But his right hand was doing something his left hand was not. A small circle, a careful rotation. The kind of motion a man makes when he is trying to warm up a joint that does not want to be warmed. Rowan saw it. Brennan saw her see it. One chance, Lieutenant. One chance. Final match. Lieutenant Rowan Hayes versus Staff Sergeant Gage Colton. 3-minute rounds, 1 minute between. Colton walked to center ring. She walked to meet him. Up close, he was bigger than he had been 14 days ago on the beach. Or maybe she was smaller. Her face was swelling. Her lip was split. Her right eye was starting to close. He looked at her the way a man looks at something he has misjudged. They touched gloves. Fight! Colton came forward fast. He did not make the mistakes his men had made. He boxed. Clean, technical, beautiful boxing. 12 years of Golden Gloves training poured out of his hands. He landed a jab. A cross. Another jab. She slipped the second cross but caught the third on the cheekbone. Stars burst across her vision. He pressed. He landed a hook. Her head snapped sideways, blood in her mouth. He landed an uppercut. She got her shoulder up in time to eat most of it. Most of it, not all of it. 45 seconds in, she was losing. Badly. 1 minute. He landed a body shot that folded her in half. She covered up. He landed 3 more in a row before she cleared the guard. 90 seconds, she was going to lose. Her vision was going. Her legs had stopped listening. He was going to knock her out in the next 60 seconds, and he knew it, and she knew it, and 400 people in that gymnasium knew it. And then she remembered her father's voice. 12 years old, on the tailgate of his pickup truck. When you cannot win standing, baby girl. You change the question. 2 minutes. Colton threw another jab. She did not slip it. She took it on the forehead, and she walked into him. Her arms wrapped around his waist. Her head pressed against his sternum. He tried to hit her with elbows. She held on. He tried to shove her away. She held on. And then with the last strength in her legs, she changed levels. It was not a beautiful takedown. It was ugly. It was desperate. But she got her head under his chin, her arms around his thighs, and she drove with everything she had left. 200 pounds of Marine came off the canvas. He landed on his back. The crowd exploded. Colton tried to get up. She was already mounted on his hips. He bucked. She rode it. He bridged. She based out. She took his back. Body triangle. Locked. Gage Colton was a world-class boxer. He was not a grappler. His defensive wrestling was good. His back defense was not. He went flat. Tried to stall. But the referee was not going to stand them up. This was her fight now. She started hunting. Her forearm slid under his chin. He tucked. She pulled back on his forehead. He kept his chin down. She threw short punches to his ribs. He tried to hand fight. He pulled her wrist away from his throat with both hands. He made his mistake. Both hands. Her forearm slid deeper. Across his throat now. Proper position. The choke locked. His eyes went wide. He had 10 seconds. Maybe less. And this was the moment. This was the moment her father had written about 12 years ago in a letter on 4 pages of yellow paper. This was the moment she had been walking toward for 6 days. She had 2 options. She could slide her grip down, take the armbar, break his elbow the way she had broken Walsh's, send him out of this gym on a stretcher, end his career, keep him awake for the humiliation. Or she could squeeze, put him to sleep, clean, humane, let him wake up on the canvas. Let him wake up the way her father had wanted him to wake up 15 years ago, when no one had been there to hold him as he held his dying sister on a bathroom floor in an apartment in Texas. She thought for just a breath about Rachel Colton, 5'2", heart like a lion. She squeezed. Gage Colton did not tap. Stubborn, proud, the same pride that had started this. The same pride that had kept him sitting alone at a corner table in the chow hall, watching a 15-year-old video on a phone. 5 seconds. His movements got sluggish. 3 seconds. His arms went slack. The referee dove in. Stop. He's out. Rowan released. She rolled off him onto her side, and for a moment she did not get up. She lay on the canvas, her face pressed against the cool material, and she listened to the crowd. 400 voices, chanting, phantom, phantom, phantom. 22 minutes. 6 men. She pushed herself up to her hands and knees, then to her feet. Gage Colton was lying face down on the canvas. The medical team was already moving. They rolled him onto his back, ammonia under his nose. His eyes fluttered, opened. He was disoriented for a long moment. Then he focused. On the ceiling. On the referee. On her. He understood. You could see it move across his face. The slow, terrible understanding of a man who has just learned that everything he thought he knew about himself was wrong. He did not get up right away. He sat up slowly, put his head in his hands. And Gage Colton, in front of 400 witnesses, began to cry. Not loudly, not dramatically, just the silent, shoulder-shaking cry of a man whose grief has finally found a door out. The gymnasium had gone very, very quiet. Rowan Hayes walked across the canvas, slowly. Her legs were barely working. Her face was covered in blood. She knelt down in front of him. She reached around to the small of her back under the black belt, and she took out the letter. She held it out. He looked at it, then at her. What is this? His voice was not the voice of the man on the beach 14 days ago. It's a letter from my father. Her own voice was hoarse, quiet, for the 2 of them only. He wrote it in 2011, 3 weeks before he died. He wanted you to have it. Colton's hands shook as he took it. I don't understand. Her name was Rachel. He froze. The hand holding the letter went still. My father knew her staff sergeant. At Paris Island, 2009. He was one of her instructors. He tried to help her. Colton's eyes filled again, but differently now. He couldn't save her. He wrote that letter for you. He said to tell you he was sorry he couldn't save her. He said to tell you he tried. She watched him read it. 4 pages. His face did not move while he read. His hands shook, but his face did not move. When he got to the last page and the last line, his shoulders broke. He folded the letter very carefully, very precisely, the way a Marine folds a flag, and he held it against his chest with both hands, and he wept without sound, the way old men weep at the graves of their children. Rowan put her hand on his shoulder. She was a warrior staff sergeant. My father said she was one of the finest he ever trained. It was not your fault. He could not speak. She leaned closer. The only way to honor her now is to let the next one through the door. Do you understand me? He nodded, just once. She straightened up. She held out her hand. After a long moment, Gage Colton took it. She helped him to his feet. They stood together at the center of the canvas, her hand still in his, and then slowly he raised her hand above his head. The crowd erupted, the kind of sound you feel more than hear. 400 people on their feet, SEALs embracing each other, Marines saluting. Captain Reed standing perfectly still in his seat, with tears running down his face and making no attempt to wipe them away. Master Chief Brennan climbed into the ring. He walked to Rowan. He did not hug her. He came to attention in front of her, 62 years old in his dress blues, and he saluted her. Slow, perfect, held. She returned it, held it just as long. He dropped his salute first. Your father is proud, Lieutenant. Yes, Master Chief. 2 days later on Monday morning at 0800-500 personnel stood at parade rest on the main grinder at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. The sun was already warm. The flag snapped in the offshore breeze. Staff Sergeant Gage Colton marched to the podium in his dress blues. Every ribbon aligned, shoes polished. The strain on his face was the strain of a man who had slept for the first time in many years without dreaming of an apartment in Abilene, Texas. He did not read from notes. Good morning. I am Staff Sergeant Gage Colton. I stand before you today to issue a formal and unconditional apology. He paused. Lieutenant Rowan Hayes, every female service member on this base, every woman who has ever worn the uniform of the United States Armed Forces. He took a long breath. I was wrong. I was completely, inexcusably, publicly wrong. I dismissed a fellow warrior on the basis of her sex. I allowed a private grief to poison my professional judgment. I said things to Lieutenant Hayes 14 days ago that I will be ashamed of for the rest of my life. He looked up, found her in the formation. Saturday night, Lieutenant Rowan Hayes defeated my entire squad. 6 consecutive fights, 6 trained combat Marines. She did it with technique, with discipline, and with a warrior spirit that humbled every man who watched. He paused. But that is not why I am standing here today. I am standing here because Lieutenant Hayes gave me back a piece of something I lost 15 years ago. That is not a debt I can repay. I can only honor it. He came to attention. He saluted her. Slow, perfect, held. Rowan returned it. The formation erupted. That afternoon, after the formation dismissed Gage, Colton came to Rowan's office. He stood in the doorway for a long moment before he knocked. Lieutenant, a minute of your time. She nodded him in. He stood at parade rest in front of her desk. He did not sit. I've requested a permanent assignment to Coronado, ma'am, as Marine liaison to SEAL training. Captain Reed approved it this morning. She looked up. Why Staff Sergeant? He did not answer right away. Because the next Rachel is going to come through a door somewhere, ma'am, and I want to be the man on the other side of that door when she does. Rowan Hayes set down her pen. Then you're going to need to learn how we teach out here, Staff Sergeant. Yes, ma'am. I was hoping you'd say that. Oh, 600, Monday, Gym 2. Bring a notebook. Yes, ma'am. He came to attention, saluted. She returned it. He turned and left. She sat at her desk for a long time after he was gone, her hand resting on the cover of her father's notebook, and she let herself for just one moment feel what it felt like to have done the thing he had asked her to do. 8 weeks later, Rowan Hayes stood in a smaller gymnasium on a quieter morning. 24 students in front of her. 12 SEALs, 8 Marines, 4 Rangers, most of them men, 6 of them women. At her side, helping her teach, stood Staff Sergeant Gage Colton. They taught Phantom Protocol together. She taught the principles. He taught the applications. The first rule went up on the whiteboard in her handwriting. Small joints break before large muscles tear. Underneath it, in Colton's handwriting, was the second line he had added himself. Capability has no sex. Honor has no excuse. The last scene of Rowan Hayes' story did not take place on a mat. It took place at Arlington National Cemetery on a gray November afternoon, 3 months after the fight at the Coronado. The trees had gone bare. The air smelled of wood smoke and coming winter. Rowan Hayes walked the long familiar path alone. She wore her dress whites. Her father's black belt was folded and carried in her left hand the way a widow carries a folded flag. She stopped at section 60. Row 5. The white marble marker had been there for 15 years. She knelt down in the grass. Master Chief Harlan Hayes, United States Navy SEAL. December 1st, 1971, April 3rd, 2011, beloved husband and father. She laid the belt across the base of the stone. She was quiet for a long time. And then for the first time since she was 13 years old, for the first time since two men in dress blues had come to her front door in San Diego with a folded flag and a terrible, gentle quietness, Lieutenant Rowan Hayes sat down in the grass at her father's grave and she cried. She cried for him. For the man who had sat at a kitchen table with a newborn daughter in his arms and decided right there that he would spend the rest of his life making sure she would never ever be helpless. She cried for Rachel Colton, for the sparrow with the lion's heart who had come so close and had been failed by men who should have known better. She cried for the 12-year-old girl on a tailgate in San Diego listening to a father who already knew he was going to die try in the time he had left to give her everything she would need to live without him. She cried for a long time, and when she was done, she did what he had taught her to do. She wiped her eyes. She stood up. She picked up her father's belt, tied it around her waist over her dress whites against regulation, against protocol, against every single written rule the Navy had. She did not care. Somewhere on the other side of the country, 24 students were waiting in a gymnasium for her next lesson. Somewhere out there in the dark places of the world, other warriors were already doing the work. The mission continues. Someone has to stand on the wall. Lieutenant Rowan Hayes came to attention at her father's grave. She saluted him, slow, perfect, held. Then she turned and she walked back down the path and she went to do the work.